Hello everyone, and welcome to Hopping Mad. This is a documentary produced by Ethan, Jesse and Patrick about the cane toad. The cane toad, an invasive species that is so largely overpopulated in eastern Australia, it is beginning to destroy habitats that are unknown to it. Cane toads, or Rhinella marina as it's scientifically known, are largely heavily built amphibians with warty skin. They may be grey, yellowish, olive brown or reddish brown, and their bellies are pale with dark spots. It can range from 10 to 15 centimetres long on average. However, one of the larger toads to be recorded came in at an incredible 24 centimetres and weighed 1.3 kilograms. The cane toad was introduced to Australia from South America in 1935. Approximately 102 toads were introduced. In order to combat the cane beetle, a pest that was destroying one of Australia's main harvests at the time, sugarcane. But it later turned out that the cane toad was not able to combat the beetle, as cane beetles tend to nest higher up in the sugarcane stalk than a toad can jump, thus making the toad unable to catch the desired prey. This left the experiment a failure. Farmers had to go back to using chemicals to kill the beetles, and it also left Australia with one of the worst and most well-known invasive species problem to ever occur. At the time, there were only a few hundred toads released into the wild, so nobody really cared. That was when we truly started to find out how bad the toad outbreak would be. It turns out that cane toads lay up to 33,000 eggs per spawning. Some references also say it can be up to 60,000, as the cane toad has no natural predator due to being poisonous at all stages of its growth. Nearly all the eggs make it to adulthood, thus leaving us where we are today. Another problem that occurs from this is that the cane toad's eggs mature at a faster rate than native frogs, meaning that they are able to outcompete the native frogs for food due to being a larger size. Cane toads are moving westward to further inland Australia at a rate of 40 to 60 kilometres per year. The toads reached Brisbane by 1945, Burketown in northwestern Queensland by 1980. By 1994, they reached the tip of Cape York. In 1995, their westward expansion had reached the Roper River in the Gulf of Carpentaria in the Northern Territory. By March 2001, they reached Kakadu National Park. In February 2009, cane toads crossed the Western Australia border with the Northern Territory, which is over 2,000 kilometres from where they originally began. The cane toad continues to move further and further, causing devastating effects to the natural habitats of Australia.
All life stages of the cane toad are toxic, and the active principles of the toxin are extremely powerful to anything that tries to consume it. The toxin is also completely unique to cane toads. Almost immediately after the toad was introduced, there was a noticeable impact on the European honeybee. Although it wasn't until the 1960s that the anecdotal report of the decline in population numbers of native species became apparent. It was observed that species of snake, monitors, frilled-neck lizards and quolls had experienced population decline following the dispersion of cane toads in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. Despite the cane toads not causing any physical harm to smaller vertebrates, they still compete for the same food source as frogs and small rodents, and their ability to reproduce quickly and develop rapidly gives them a hopping advantage over native species. Toads can consume approximately 200 food items per night, which is far more than that native frog species can. They also use the same shelter as small vertebrates, which leaves competitors vulnerable to predators. Another ecological impact cane toads can pose is the wiping out of top-order consumers. When larger predators attempt to consume the cane toad, they soon find out it was a toxic mistake. This has the potential to increase the number of prey and cause a detrimental effect to the food web. All in all, the cane toad is essentially an unstoppable force and has the ability to expand its home range like no other. Kakadu National Park is an enormous biodiverse nature preserve in Australia's Northern Territory, with many terrain types including wetlands, rivers and sandstone escarpments. Kakadu is the largest national park in Australia and was established in 3 parts. The first was in 1979 and the final stage was named a national park in 1991. It branches over approximately 20,000 square kilometres. But even this could fall victim to the cane toad's reign. Cane toads crossed into the Northern Territory from Queensland in the 1980s and reached the southern end of Kakadu National Park in 2001. More than 90% of the park is now habitable by the cane toad. In 2004, quolls, which are native to Kakadu National Park, suffered a catastrophic loss in numbers and were completely wiped off the park due to cane toads and feral cats. In 2010, captive quolls at the Territory Wildlife Park were trained to avoid eating poisonous cane toads. Monitoring shows that the females not only survived and reproduced, but that new generations also learned to avoid eating toads.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
It is evident that cane toads are having a significant ecological impact in ecosystems throughout Australia today, and the issue is likely to worsen in the foreseeable future if the rate of which the cane toad population increases stays at current levels. However, if native species are able to adapt to the presence of these cane toads in the future, the severity of the problem will decline over time. Under the right circumstances, adaptive evolution can occur at a rapid pace as a consequence of natural events. Despite the evident issues with the rapid increase in the population of cane toads in Australia, it is unlikely that there will be a broad-scale method capable of controlling their growth in numbers. Researchers are coming to terms with this fact and beginning to appreciate the native species' ability to adapt to the presence of cane toads. As of yet, no Australian species have been driven to extinction due to the cane toad invasion. However, if these native species fail to adapt in adequate time, this is a very real possibility. With no methods likely to be introduced to completely eradicate the pest species in the near future, efforts will continue to be made in local ponds and wetlands. The clearing of tadpoles from individual water bodies is by far the most effective of the localised methods. This method involves capturing all tadpoles within a water body and destroying them. Other, less humane methods are often used by locals, but this has little to no effect on the rate of which these animals spread and grow throughout Australian habitats. Since being introduced into Australia in 1935, the cane toads are spreading westward approximately 40 to 60 kilometres per year, and this behaviour is likely to continue into the future. Depicted in this photo, the Australian government has provided a predicted distribution of cane toads in Australia in the next decade. A large area of Western Australia will soon be home to cane toads. With an abundance of endemic species in this area, it is almost certain that these areas will be significantly impacted. In particular, predators such as dingoes, king brown snakes, and goannas in these Kimberley regions are at significant threat. While species in Queensland and Northern Territory are beginning to identify cane toads as an illegitimate food source, this process will restart again upon arrival of the cane toads in these regions of Western Australia, as these individuals have never seen the marine toad before.